the entire world at my command. The Empire of Doom shall reign on Earth forever.
What is up, everybody? It's your boy Stu from Dr. Doom's Fan Club, and welcome to part 2 of my Dr. Doom reading recommendation list. This is a compilation of what I feel are Doom's greatest hits in single-issue form, a collection of appearances that best highlight our beloved Master of Menace. Part 1 of this list is already up on my YouTube page under the Legacy of Doom playlist, and it covered the birth of Dr. Doom in the Silver Age of Comics, 1962 through 1970. In this video, part 2, we will be moving through the Bronze Age from 1971 through the end of 84, and finally part 3, our last installment, will be covering the modern age from 85 to present day. Alright, going to open up with a dose of truth as we begin volume 2. The 70s were not the strongest decade for our boy. When Doom is able to get regular work, it's on B-list titles like Astonishing Tales and Supervillain Team Up, splitting issues with the likes of folks like Kazar and Namor. We are going to spend the majority of our time today talking about the Doom books from the first half of the 1980s. For me, one of the very best periods for the character. That said, it's not like the 70s were a complete bust, so let's get into it. Starting towards the end of 1971, we have issue number 8 of Astonishing Tales, and this one's significant as it builds upon an essential part of Doom's character and motivations, his relationship, or lack thereof, with his mother. After his father's death, Doom found out his mother was a powerful sorceress and wielder of black magic, and since that revelation, he has been driven to learn what she knew and how to use it to free her Doom soul from Hades. This issue shows Doom attempt this reclamation for the first time in a tale that also serves as a precursor to one of the more famous Doom stories of all time, Triumph in Torment, written by Roger Stern and illustrated by Mike Mignola, which we will talk about in part 3. So we learn from the Latverian townsfolk that every year on Midsummer's Eve, which is June 24th, in case you didn't know, Doom uses his mother's spells to face off against Mephisto, battle for the soul of Cynthia Von Doom. Cynthia is apparently condemned to hell because she died unconfessed, we learn, and Doom ultimately loses this match against Mephisto's champion, Kagrok the Killer, and swears to return the next year stronger and more capable. This one is a poignant little story with a lot of heart, and Cynthia Von Doom will serve as a subject of tragic fascination for decades to come. Next up on the list is the best and really the only supervillain team-up issue featuring Doom that I feel is truly worthy of inclusion on the list. It's Supervillain Team-Up issue number 14. Killer cover here from John Byrne as we get everybody from the Marvel Universe paying homage, bowing down to Doom. Inside, we get Bill Mantlo writing and Bob Hull on art with the story of a belligerent Magneto who's blundering into Latveria, storming into Castle Doom, and essentially challenging Doom to a world's greatest supervillain contest. Magneto thinks that the ruler of this miserable mountain kingdom can know nothing of world domination, but in that same moment, Doom releases his neurocanisters, which emit a gas into the atmosphere, making every living thing on Earth an unconscious servant of Doom. Now, this story eventually concludes in another title altogether, Champions, issue number 16, but it kind of gets cluttered and convoluted, and it really doesn't have any of the great, well-drawn comedic moments in the first half of this book. So I would stick to the supervillain team-up part of this tale if we're talking essentials. We will close out the 70s with another quartet of Fantastic Four issues featuring who else but Doom facing off against the First Family in issues 197, 198, 199, and 200. This arc is written by Marv Wolfman and illustrated by Keith Pollard, and though this is certainly not the strongest period for Fantastic Four comics, this one is worth talking about for a couple of different reasons. In this arc, Doom takes the Fantastic Four prisoner, save for Reed Richards, who as usual is off somewhere being a horrible team leader. In Latveria, Doom's, quote, son is set to inherit the throne, though we will soon learn that this is a Doombot heir meant to placate the Latverian population and fake a peaceful transfer of power. However, Reed gets to Latveria, soon meets Prince Zorba, brother to the deposed Latverian King Rudolfo, who Doom got rid of. Zorba is the leader of the Latverian resistance. They claim they want democracy in Latveria, and he wants Reed's help in overthrowing Doom. During the coronation, the people revolt, and Doom's son reveals his true form. He's an android with the combined powers of the FF. Issue 200 features a knockdown, drag-out fight between Reed Richards and Dr. Doom, and Doom finally gets the upper hand towards the end. He's choking Reed to death until Reed is able to take off his mask and expose Doom to the Solartron and 1,000 different reflections of his own face, which shatters his mind and sends him into a catatonic state. It is the last we will see of Doom in the 70s. He will spend the entirety of 1979 on the sidelines. Before we move on, there's a couple of honorable mentions from the 70s and the early 80s I want to shout out real quick. I'd be remiss not to mention Luke Cage and Hero for Hire number 9 from 1973, in which Cage famously borrows the Fantastic Car, heads to Latveria to collect the $200 that Dr. Doom owes him. It's a bizarre, fun, and hilarious little comedic footnote in both Cage and Doom's canon. Dazzler issues 3 and 4 from 81 is also worth a quick mention here, even though the story in this arc is kind of rather forgettable, unfortunately. Doom is after more Merlin stones, the same ones he coveted from Blackbeard the Pirate back in Fantastic Four number 5 when he sent the Fantastic Four back in time to retrieve them. Despite this week's story, there are 2 killer covers by Brent Anderson and longtime Jack Kirby inker Joe Sinnott, and some killer Doom pages within both of these issues, and that's always a joy to see. So if you're building up that collection of Doom single issues, the art in Dazzler number 3 and number 4 from 81 make it worth keeping an eye out for. Alright gang, next we move into the first half of the 1980s, an extremely important time for the development of Dr. Doom and his menacing Marvel mythology, and it's populated with some of the best Doom stories we have ever been blessed with, point blank period. We're going to start it off by talking about Doom's 3-issue story arc across Uncanny X-Men 145, 146, and 147. Another iconic Doom cover here, courtesy of Dave Cockrum and Joseph Rubinstein, as Doom holds an unconscious Storm with the defeated X-Men laying at his feet, victory toast in hand with the goblet. Doesn't get much better than this one when it comes to all-time Doom covers. This issue is also huge for the respectful and quasi-romantic rapport established between Doom and Storm for the first time in these pages. It has since grown to be one of the most intriguing and most referenced relationships in the Doctor Doom canon. Storm takes to Castle Doom to occupy Doom's attention while the rest of the X-Men attack the castle and try to find and free an imprisoned Arcade. But as Aurora and Doom share a meal together, each one of them finds themselves drawn to the other, quote, lioness to lion, end quote, as Doom so eloquently puts it here. The tone feels authentic and spot on throughout, so much so that this moment has been referenced several times in Marvel history since, most recently in 2021's Sword issue number 7, and in 2025's Storm issue number 4. Gotta love it when Doom and Storm are sharing a meal together. Though none of these dates have ended particularly well, we clearly find the barbed attraction between these two as fascinating as they do. Back to the story, it turns out Arcade was no prisoner. It was another one of his games. He baited the X-Men into attacking Doom's castle, only to unleash the masked villain's wrath upon them. And the X-Men are but a trifle to Doom in the truest sense of the word, guys. He takes out the entire team with 2 waves of his hand here. Light work, Children of the Atom. Step it up. With each of the X-Men locked in a cell befitting their own powers, Storm finds out the truth, but not before Doom horrifically covers her in this organic chrome coating and turns her into a living statue. But this claustrophobic Omega-level mutant subconsciously conjures a massive hurricane that covers half of the United States. Soon the X-Men escape their cells and rescue the rattled Storm. She loses her shit a little bit and shorts out Doom's armor with a massive lightning strike. She's about to expose him to the full power of the elements at her control until Colossus helps her regain her senses and reminds her of what happened when Jean lost control in the Dark Phoenix saga. So as Aurora regains control over herself and her powers, the Storm calms and Doom apologizes, asking to get to know Storm better. Such a great resolution to the story. Now, John Byrne, during his time on the Fantastic Four, would infamously take umbrage with the way Doom was written in the storyline. In particular, a moment between Doom and Arcade. in Uncanny X-Men 146. It's a funny little historical footnote. We will cover a little bit more in depth when we get to Fantastic Four issue number 258 in just a bit. I will say, in a general sense, despite Byrne's complaints, I really find Claremont's tone for Doctor Doom to be pitch perfect, and he folded another brilliant and charming layer of complexity into the character with this relationship with Aurora. Moving on, man, and it only gets better, guys. Next up is a two-part tale of magical and medieval mayhem. It's Iron Man number 149 and 150 Doom Quest, which more or less directly followed the X-Men books in the late summer of 1981. This story is written by both David Michelini and Bob Layton, and we also have Bob Layton lending a hand to John Romita Jr., both on the artwork and on this immaculate set of covers. When I say magical, I do mean it in the literal sense, as this chapter brings the sage and sorcery back to the House of Doom. In this book, we learn Doom has been exploiting the use of his time machine to go far back into the past and glean the knowledge of the arcane arts from folks like Cagliostro, a sorcerer from the world of Doctor Strange, who wonders why Doom needs his ancient knowledge when he has the mind-blowing means to travel through time at will. Upon returning to the present on one of these trips, Doom is greeted and informed by Hoffman that any more time travel is going to require Stark tech to fix the circuitry, and Stark has unfortunately just canceled and forbidden any future contracts with Latveria. So Doom sends a manned attack vehicle to steal the Stark tech circuits he needs, and his agents manage to overcome Iron Man, who was lying in wait for Doom. Tony then heads to Latveria to confront Doom, and Iron Man and Doom do battle, but when they accidentally step onto the time machine platform, Hauptmann activates the device and sends them back into the past, and after he does so, he destroys the time machine, stranding both of them there. Now, loyal Latverians will remember the first Hauptmann, this one's brother, from our time in part 1 when we covered Fantastic Four 86 through 89. Hauptmann and his flamethrower went to war with the Fantastic Four while Doom wined and dined Sue Storm and Crystal of the Inhumans. But for all his fiery efforts against the team, Hauptmann was still killed by Doom when his flamethrower almost damaged Doom's art collection. At the same time, Hauptmann's a member of the Third Reich, and watching a Nazi wither under the Iron Fist of Doom kind of makes you feel all warm and fuzzy inside. Mind the day guy, you dolt! So, the Hauptmann scene here is triggering the time machine as a form of revenge on Doom for murdering his brother, but if you come for the king, you best not miss, and Hauptmann will pay dearly for this decision in short order. Another Doom detail we will address and see come full circle in Fantastic Four number 258. Issue 150 begins as Iron Man and Doctor Doom find themselves stranded in the kingdom of Camelot. Several of the Knights of the Round Table confront the duo, and Doom allows one poor knight to be the first man to experience alternating current as he electrocutes him after Doom refuses to acknowledge their authority. The duo present themselves to King Arthur. That night at Camelot, both Tony and Doom receive their own personal concubines, but where Tony is honored to accept his host's generosity, Doom threatens his for the location of Morgana Le Fay and kills a guard before taking off by a jetpack for Morgana's castle, where he asks the sultry sorceress to aid him in rescuing his mother from hell. I love the back and forth between Doom and Morgana. He is clearly in awe of both her beauty and her power, and after a little bit more ego stroking by Doom, she agrees to aid him if he will help her kill King Arthur. So using a chip from the sword Excalibur, Morgana raises an army of undead soldiers who will be Doom's to command and lead in battle. And the sight of this feat of magic turns Doom on. It makes him hot and bothered. The battle commences. Iron Man joins King Arthur's forces to combat Doom and his army of the damned. Soon he heads to Morgana's castle to confront the witch and cut off the power at its source, break the spell. It's a terrific sequence here of magic versus technology as the two do battle before Morgana eventually concedes, admitting that she cannot counter what she does not comprehend. She disappears to another dimension and the army of the undead fades back to dust. Doom becomes enraged at this moment at Iron Man and the possibility that he has done harm to Morgana and interfered with his plans to free his mother's soul. But when he arrives at her castle, he sees that she simply dipped out, and along with Iron Man, together they finally face this hard truth that they cannot return to their time without working together to find a solution. The issue concludes with this brilliant juxtaposition of our two armored geniuses working together through the night, and as they cobble together a time-traveling device from the combined components of both of their suits of armor, each admires the other's intellect as they're burning the midnight oil. It's a fantastic scene. The two agree on a 24-hour temporary truce upon arrival back in the present, and their makeshift device returns them there safely. And as the two part ways, Doom vows revenge, and Iron Man tells him he'll be waiting. Such a classic tale, from covers to story. Love the time traveling bit.
You couldn't do it alone, could you? You needed my tech to make your little key work.
Doom needs no one.
Next on the list, we have a string of Fantastic Four issues that are hugely important to the mythos of Doom as we get into the John Byrne run of the Fantastic Four. One of the best runs ever for the first family of Marvel Comics, as Byrne writes and draws some of the best team superhero comics of the 1980s, period, here on Fantastic Four. The first issue up under the spotlight is going to be FF 236, where our story sets up with Puppet Master and Doom having trapped the Fantastic Four in a fake and fictional miniature town called Littleville, where they all lead normal lives without any powers at all. But after the Fantastic Four keep having recurring nightmares and the nagging feeling that something isn't right, they eventually figure out that they are really inhabiting tiny robotic avatars, while Doom has their real physical bodies in a hypnotic stasis of sorts. But soon enough, the team is able to turn the tables on Doom and trap his mind in his own robotic body and capture his inert physical form. The story continues 10 issues later in FF 246, aka Too Many Dooms. This issue is a Doombot extravaganza, beginning with some good old premature gloating here from Puppet Master, talking shit, thinking he has gotten the upper hand on Doom before getting squashed like a bug, courtesy of our first Doombot here. This Doombot retrieves the body of mini Robot Doom, stay with me now, and dips out. Meanwhile, the Latverian ambassador arranges for the Fantastic Four to deliver the body of the inert Dr. Doom that they had captured in 236 back to Latveria. When the team arrive with Doom's body, each member is greeted by their own Doombot with a specially designed trap for their particular power set. While the Doombots occupy the Fantastic Four, another set of Doombots, I told you they were everywhere, folks, take the real body of Doom and essentially updated software. They deliver the mind of Doom out of its robotic prison and into this inert physical body. The team is able to eventually get through the Doombots they were fighting and confront the now restored, authentic Dr. Doom, expecting a huge throwdown, but instead, Doom asks for their help? What? As the issue ends, Doom surprises the team with a glimpse at his beloved homeland of Latveria, and the team is shocked to see a desolate, third world looking country bombed out and depleted.
Buckmaster, what can I say about that suit that hasn't already been said about Afghanistan? It looks bombed out and depleted.
Stunned at the sight, especially given they were the ones who helped put Prince Zorba in power back in Fantastic Four number 200. So Doom here announces his true intention to the team: reclaim what is rightfully his from Zorba, the Latverian throne, and give aid to his country that's desperately in need. And he wants to do it all with the help of the Fantastic Four. Issue 247 picks up right where we left off, another all-timer of a cover and a must-have for any Doom out there. This one, and really any of these books on the list from the John Byrne run of Fantastic Four, is super affordable to collect, and I highly encourage y'all to grab them out there in either single issue form or collected. Early on in issue 247, we meet Christophe Venard and his mother. Little Christophe will soon become a surrogate son of Doom's, in a manner of speaking, and one of Byrne's biggest contributions to the Doom canon, but more on him in just a bit. The FF are in awe as Doom walks the streets of Latveria with nothing but admiration and respect from his subjects, who pine for the days of a free and happy Latveria. Since his rise to power with the help of the idiot Reed Richards, Prince Zorba has turned Latveria into a brutal, impoverished, authoritarian state, with Doom's servo-bots harshly policing the population. Christoph's mother is catching Doom up on the situation, telling him everything that happened, and in that very moment, she is blasted by one of these servo-bots for, quote, violating curfew, and she dies right there in Doom's arms. This causes Doom to become enraged, and with the help of the FF, they attack and defeat the Servobots and are joined by more civilians to help in the fight against Zorba. With more of the population showing up to support Doom, Reed and the team are still in disbelief at the horrific situation that they have helped to enact. In the meantime, Zorba sends more killer robots, but they're no match for Doom, who's done with the games and retakes the palace. And the last we see of Zorba is when Doom has him in a chokehold over the side of the castle. When Reed later asks Doom what happened to Zorba, he just gets a "it ain't your business" in response. With his proper place on the Latverian throne restored, yes! Doom and the FF part ways, but Doom reminds them as they leave, your total destruction is my ultimate goal. Finally, for the last 3 issues on the Bronze Age Doom reading recommendation list is Fantastic Four 258, 259, and 260, in which Doom tries his very best to make good on that promise and destroy the FF. This 3-issue part pulls on a lot of elements from everything Byrne has already built in his run, but also the tendencies of Lee and Kirby's Doom. Starting off, I know I'm a broken record here, folks, but it's all truth. Another all-timer of a cover from John Byrne. This one's way up there for me. Always a fan of covers that look like they're jumping off the page and the way they use depth, and this is a perfect example of that. The Doom hand with the reflection and the armor and the way it kind of previews the opening page is so well done. I consider FF 258 just by itself one of the best Doctor Doom issues of all time. The entire book, first page to the last, is a spotlight on the Master of Menace with a day in the life type of feel to it. We learn that Doom's now adopted Kristoff as his son and is educating the boy on all things Doom. We see Kristoff gaining not just book knowledge from the classroom, but also kingly knowledge from the court as he witnesses Doom governing his people. Remember how we were talking about John Byrne not being a fan of Claremont's writing of Doom back in UNCANNY X-Men 145 through 147? Here Byrne infamously retcons that Doom appearance, saying it was nothing but a Doombot all along, and it made a terminal error when it allowed the annoying arcade to strike a match on Doom's armor, a terrible affront to the personage of Dr. Doom. For this trespass, Doom forces the Doombot to explode itself, but I said it before and I'll say it again, I really enjoyed Claremont's writing of Doom, and I thought he was on point with the tone of the character. Issue 258 also resolves an earlier incident, the fate of Doom's assistant, Hauptmann, who, in an effort to get revenge for his brother's death at the hands of Doom, sent both Iron Man and Doom back in time together to Camelot in the pages of Iron Man 149 and 150. We learn that old Hauptmann is still alive and that the employee of the Good Doctor working on a special project to recreate the power cosmic for him. When he finds success with the project, he lets Doom know, and he assists Doom get in the machine and try it first to attempt the power transport. But instead, Doom throws him in there first, and Hauptmann gets flambéed and fried to a crisp. Doom explains to a Servobot that he knew he was scheming. He'd been scheming all along after I killed his brother, cuz. Doom has his Servobots kidnap a hospitalized Tyros the Terrible, aka Terrax, Galactus' former herald who was stripped of his powers by Big G back in issue 244. Doom regifts him with the power cosmic and a Green Goblin-esque glider, and turns him loose on the city and the Fantastic Four. But Doom doesn't tell Terrax the full truth of the situation. His power source is unstable, and he's essentially a ticking time bomb. Soon the massive amount of power he's wielding will consume him and detonate. Terrax gives the FF all they can handle across these issues, and eventually Doom decides he's going to come to the rescue. But Terrax lights his ass up too and fuses Doom's armor together. Doom is frozen in place. Luckily, the Silver Surfer detected the power cosmic in use on planet Earth and came to see what's up. He shows up and is able to engage and occupy Terrax. They do battle across the skies of New York City until Terrax's time finally runs out. He triggers a massive explosion and he lands right on top of the frozen and motionless Dr. Doom. But just because he's fused together in place doesn't mean all is lost for the Master of Menace. Doom pulls out the old Ovioid mind swap from his back pocket and transfers his consciousness into the body of a nearby spectator, one Norman MacArthur, who just coincidentally is also a handsome ginger. Doom first learned the Ovioid mind swap way back in the pages of Fantastic Four issue 10. I swear it's Aunt May standing next to him and he tells her off, as the team finds a smoldering Doom mask in the wreckage, falsely assuming that he has perished. All told, these 6 issues, Fantastic Four 236, 246, 247, and 258 through 60, combine to form a 6-part Doom tale you can follow when you sequence the issues together with very few hiccups. I also love the elements used here that were borrowed from Fantastic Four 57 through 60 when Doom first tried to attain the power cosmic, stealing it from the Silver Surfer. All right, that will do it for the Bronze Age of Doom and round 2 of the reading recommendation list. To recap our Bronze Age essentials, we got Astonishing Tales, number 8, Supervillain Team Up, issue 14, Fantastic Four, number 197, 198, 199, and 200, Uncanny X-Men, 145, 146, and 147, Iron Man, number 149 and 150, and Fantastic Four, number 236, 246, 247, and 258 through 260. Honorable mention, of course, goes to Hero for Hire, issue number 9, and Dazzler, issues 3 and 4. What did I miss? What books are making your list of Doom Essentials during the Bronze Age of Comics? Let me know in the comments, and please make sure you like this video and are subscribed to Dr. Doom's Fan Club so you don't miss out on the rest of the list, as well as so much other great comic book content. We will pick up next time with part 3, covering 85 to the present day, an era that begins with Doom bearing the burden of the very first game-changing, company-wide crossover from Marvel that was Secret Wars. Can't wait to get into it, guys. Thanks for watching.
Till we meet again on Doomsday.